G'day legends, I hope that you're having so far a fantastic day and a fantastic week as well. Now today, as always, we do have a lot to talk about, but as you may even see on my face, or maybe you'll get the impression from some of my videos, I am feeling just extremely burnt out at the moment, and if this is having an effect on some of the reporting and some of the videos, I do apologise. I'm working at getting some more sleep and getting a bit healthier as well. So thanks for putting up with me. I've just got a lot going on. But today we do have a lot to talk about. So, of course, we're going to firstly look at Vuhledar. Now, what we have seen is a break-in on the western side, which is not actually the side we thought we would see. We've seen multiple Russian flags going up, and the battle has started, but I do think that may end fairly quickly. We're going to look at that. We'll look at the maps, we'll look at the footage. We need to look at Vovchansk, of course, up in the northeast. We will look at a Russian assault, and we'll look at some weapons being dropped there as well. Then we need to talk about Toretsk and some geolocated footage that gives us an idea of where the Russians may actually be in there. We'll look then at some other maps. I want to talk about victory plans, and I want to talk about FPV drones being flown from helicopters into boats. It's like a drone of a drone. But right, one more thing I want to say. So you've probably seen all over the news today that Israel is launching offensive action into Lebanon. Now, they say this is going to be limited, but this was also said about Gaza. Now, basically 12 months on now, then that is still occurring. Now, you may ask, how does that then affect this war? Well, there should be some increased concern, potentially around the shortage of air defense intercepting missiles. If more ballistics get fired upon Israel from Iran, from other areas, we could see a large shortage of the same ones that are used in Ukraine. And we could see then a shortage that could increase the efficiency of Russia's bombing campaign if not as many are coming down. And we can talk about strategic and political aspects that can affect, but let's do that on another day. So look, let's jump onto the deep state map. Here we have Ukraine in the center, the capital of Kyiv. Red areas occupied since 22, the purple since 2014, the green and blue when we're talking within Ukraine's borders, areas where Russia has been at some point and they've been pushed out or have withdrawn. The blue back into Kursk is area that Ukraine is occupying inside of Russia. The red check, which is what we're mainly going to be looking at today, is ground that Russia has made over the past 24 hours. Now, we did get a late update yesterday, so there's actually 2 updates on this map to go across today. But regardless, let's jump down into Vuhledar straight off the bat. Now, we'll look at where this looked then yesterday, no change, and then today we see then the red check pop up and a break-in on the eastern side. But what isn't being shown is the break-in on the western side, which is not where I think anyone really expected this to happen first off the bat. Now, Syriac has then said this: Vuhledar battle is going to end soon. Ukrainian army withdrew most of its forces from the locality, leaving only some focus of resistance in the center. So there's still definitely groups in the center because you can't just withdraw everyone at once, and there is a lot of information, as a lot of it is conflicting around the success of actually being able to withdraw, and then apparently a hell of a lot of casualties were taken trying to withdraw, as this road through here is under fire control, which we did know Deep State reported yesterday or the day before that this road is under fire control. So let's have a look at how we know where the Russian forces are in here. Now, I've stolen this from Defense Politics Asia, but I have double-checked these geolocations and that they are correct to the footage, and you can see where these flags have gone up on the western side of Vuhledar, and this break-in into here. Now, what we saw yesterday was that massive TOS-1 Alpha thermobaric launch onto Vuhledar, and then we've seen then this assault in, and that could have been the last amount of softening up before then the infantry really make their way in, and by that gain it appears that it has worked. So look, I'll show you some of this footage here. All this is on the Telegram if you'd like to see it, but I'll show you regardless so we can see then flags going up, victory flags and unit flags and national flags then being flown multiple over than Vuhledar. Of course, this area has been fought for and defended for now many, many months. And I have spoken that I think in this war, for square meters versus casualties, Vuhledar could be one of the largest sector on this war, and the losses in here have just been astronomical over this period. So we see climbing the tower and the Russian flag being put up, and some have pointed out, and I do agree, that there is a lot of damage, but not actually the amount of flattening that some may have actually thought that we would have seen. But of course, the city is destroyed, but not completely leveled like some would actually expect in these areas, particularly after the amount of munitions that have actually been dropped in here. So there's definitely a full break-in, whale out into here, and it will be interesting to see what occurs over the next 24 hours. I think if those remaining forces get an opportunity to leave tonight, I think that is very likely under dark to get the remaining guys out if possible. Now, these guys have also spoken about the situation as well, the Ukrainian group here in this direction, to understand the completely untimely manipulations and the replacement of the commander of the 72nd Brigade. So the commander from here has been put into it, has been promoted and put to then run operations in another front. Many of the people are praising this, saying, yep, the experience he has is needed in other more burning areas for defensive or offensive actions, as this is sort of wrapping up now, that it is strategically lost at this point, probably physically lost, I'm guessing, by tomorrow. In the Vuhledar area, the enemy is repeating the story that the 46th Brigade and comrades from other brigades went through in Bakhmut 23. Without physically cutting the road from Vuhledar to here, which is where we know Deep State confirmed fire control, they actually take it under fire control. In Bakhmut, it was artillery fire through a wider corridor and an exit from the city with losses. But it was possible. From Vuhledar, the track is now under fire, even with small arms. To understand the difference and difficult situation, in such conditions, brothers holding every piece of Vuhledar land almost at the tips of their fingers are waiting for the end of a foreign policy measure important for the country. So, talking about when they had that like beginning of envelopment towards Bakhmut, it wasn't small arms, it was primarily then artillery. But in here, with the ranges, so let's just draw in what the range is probably. So this most likely looks something like this, and let's take, it's probably like that. If we can then grab this, the actual area you're coming out of is, say, 500 meters, say 1,000 meters all the way across, definitely within then small arms range, at least, of machine gun fire, extended range for sure. And there could potentially be a lot of casualties moving out of here. And talking about this is why the Russians may have left this area open, is, well, it's easier to try and hit guys on a withdrawal rather than fighting through an urban center. If you can demoralize, starve out, and then have a better effect on target from there. That is the way I am at least reading into this. So a lot of changes happening there. This map isn't up to date on that, but I'm sure we will get it sooner rather than later. So let's push up then into this Pokrovsk and becoming, I guess, Kursk front. Now, what we need to do is not just take this map, we need to take yesterday's map update as well that happened very late. So we have this, so let's have a look. So yesterday, this is what we reported, and then this, and then that. So further ground, again, on the flank of Vuhledar, moving up to this road. Again, Vuhledar is becoming a salient. This is a very dangerous situation that I believe is developing right in here. So let's have a look at then this Syriac map and see where this is lining up. He shows at least in the same direction. Then similar amounts of movement, maybe some more in some, maybe some less in others, but what we can 100% confirm is there was definitely movement in this direction out of Novahorivka as well. Now, the main difference between these two maps is around Tuskerne, which is just down in here. This red dot, this is Tuskerne. You can see where the train line is, where Syriac is saying the Russians are right up to this, as well as moving down through the mine just to the southeast of Tuskerne and closing up on this road, occupying some of that town. So definitely some changes there. Again, we'll get a better idea in the coming days too. Now, let me just step backwards one day and turn this on, because we need to see if there's any other updates, because I can't remember on the second update of the 29th. I do not believe so. So we're going to skip forward, and then we do have a few more updates today, which are interesting. Now we're going to just skip over a couple. We'll get back to them, but this map is reporting exactly like all the pages are reporting that Nevsky has come under complete Russian control today. Now this is being spoken about by many pages, as well being confirmed now by this map. And then we look at Suryak Map's update. Now he has shown that Nevsky has basically been under control for a while. What we have reported, this map shows it, is a lot of people are saying between Makivka and Nevsky that this whole thing in here has closed up. This is what allowed the fall of Nevsky fairly quickly. See where this road runs through here? Look at where this front line's sitting by Suryak. He's saying that this is completely closed up. Again, we are unsure, but he's showing just to the southeast of Nevsky that there is some Russian advancement down in and around these areas as well. We'll wait and see if how this changes. See these two long paddocks? It's right through here along then this dotted border line as well. Now, we'll just move downward because we've got another map update here. And what we're looking for is we'll move our way up to see then Andriivka in this front. So what we're looking for is this area. This red dot is Andriivka, and a close-up of then basically where the grey zone sits along the Zerabets. See the Zerabets then river here, that it has closed up in this sector according to Suryak's map update. So saying there are some changes on this front. Now, let's turn this back on, move up a little bit. Pashani talking that there is further Russian southerly push out from this front, trying to widen this then this offensive they are making, and we have spoken about the potential for more envelopment around this Berestove area, reaching out where the Zerabets and Rivka front is, as we see this sort of hook forming in here, should be of some concern. Now, let's move our way back, and we see a small bit of red pop up in Toretsk. Now, there are some very different maps in here, but I also want to show you, while we're here, a couple of bits of footage brought to my attention that are very interesting also. So, while we're here, let me show you Suryak's map. Now, Suryak's map in here is vastly different, and it can actually be hard to line these up because they can be so bloody different. Now, let's just have a look at some of these water reservoirs sitting in here, and where the further move to Leonidivka, right up with this red dot, is here. Suryak is saying that this is right up in here and well across through these blocks, including these blocks just to the south of Toretsk in here. There's a lot more close up in this whole section where my cursor is. That is what Suryak is saying, that they've taken full control over Nepalivkia in here, out from New York and areas to the east of it. That is what Suryak is saying. Now, let's have a look at some of the situation in here that was brought to my attention from this bloke, BB. Thank you very much. Sent across, Ukraine's blowing up their own building to deny Russia, to deny the high ground for the Russians in Toretsk. And then this video, which was posted 3 days later, came out of Ukrainians retaking positions in Toretsk. But you can see that the building is still standing. The area hasn't been under Russian control on any map. This could also mean that Ukrainian footage is up to 3 days old. So let's have a look at this. So let's start that we saw, this is the footage that came out on the 23rd of December of this then mine building, I believe here, coming and getting hit by then Ukrainian munitions, DEMs, and being brought down to deny Russians any high ground in here, not only from optics, but also from EW or radio repeaters that high ground is fantastic for. So let's actually have a look at where this high ground then sat. So this building was in the mine, just about where my cursor is right here. Of course, Suryak shows close to here, but again, he's halfway through here. No map shows this in even grey zone in here of that. Where we need to then move is then into the video released, and I'll show you where the geolocation is on some parts of this video. The video released is right up in and around here, but fighting and moving through these areas as well, fighting Russians in here. Now, this was released on the 26th, sorry, but in the beginning you can see this movement in here. You can see where fighting fairly close has been as well, that it's definitely standing. So likely, well, it's not likely, this building's down on the 23rd, so likely in the days prior, so say 21, 22 or 20 of September, in and fighting right around here, that he's saying no map shows this. Now, I'll put this all on the Telegram if you want to watch the footage, but you can see very heavy urban battles by Ukrainian forces in around here, firing grenades, all the stuff which you'd like to see, and retaking positions in and around here. Again, no map is showing this as grey or taken. So thank you for sending that across. If there's anything I missed like this, your eyes, well, all of us looking at this, we can collect a hell of a lot of information and get a better idea of exactly what is then occurring. So these are the updates, I believe, that the deep state is showing today. We've covered all of this, but we're going to move up a little bit into Vovchansk. Now, we have got some interesting stuff come out today. Now, let me show you a geolocation, and I can't show you the footage. It is highly bloody sensitive, but I can chuck it on the Telegram, but I'm sure you can find it somewhere. So just in around here, there was a Russian assault took place. Now, I've seen people claiming 17 armoured vehicles were involved in this. The destruction I've seen is really of 3 to 4. People saying 17 were involved, only 1 got away. I've only seen the destruction of 3 or 4 though, so I hazard a guess as it wasn't that large, or else footage would have been shown of all of them for information's sake. But there was said to be a failed assault in a right on that. We do know where Ukraine took back, and then Russia's hitting incredibly hard. Now, this was done with tanks and MTLB infantry fighting vehicles as well, and this tank does get hit, as well as there is, again, very highly, it's very bloody footage that does occur in here. Now, I did mention something like that. I did say a failed assault. Again, with so much of this, and this is something that is, I guess, difficult to speak on. By what metric does an assault fail? So, okay, the Russians lost, by the footage, at least 10, 15, maybe 20 guys in here. It was bloody horrific footage. But if they manage to take positions, does their command see that still as a success? Like, I'd like to know where that metric is for how much taken versus what cost. What is the metric there? Because I believe Russia's metric compared to like a NATO metric would be significantly different. Now, the metric I know that is significantly different is the Australian Army's metric compared to the US Army and Marines metric, because I've worked with them, is significantly different. Now, this isn't because the Marines or the Army care less about their guys. That's incorrect. It's just because we have so many less guys, we cannot afford the casualties that they could to achieve an objective. So it'd be interesting to know when we say failed assault, but if it took position, well, it's hard where the tactics line up and all the command variables in this as well. But we do know large losses there. Now, another thing here, right in this area, we have seen Russia absolutely pounding this area with even Fab 3000s, with absolutely everything at their arsenal, basically, to try and dislodge any Ukrainian forces who are in there. That's why it's interesting they even launched like an offensive into here. But today, I think it was actually after this failed attack, we then see Russia launching something we don't see that much, with ODAB 1500, which is actually a glide bomb, but it's a thermobaric. And you can see that explosion and then the resulting shockwave coming out of here as well as then other hits. And the fighting in around Vovchansk is absolutely brutal, and that whole area is unrecognizable. It's very hard to geolocate in here, except for if you can see where the waterway is running and some of the remnants of the road, because of how flattened that area has become. Sorry, I have missed one thing in Pokrovsk, but I don't think it's going to change what we talk about too much. Is Noel reports has a change in actually to the north here around Krutý Yar, Krasny Yar, not changing how we see much in here. It's showing, well, just through here, but it's showing Mykolaievka's not under control as per the deep state is. So don't worry too much. Now, I've spoken about yesterday, I shared Syriac maps over the past couple of weeks, has said that Borky has come back under Russian control, and now they're launching offensives out towards Plikovo. This is in Kursk, of course, back in Russian territory. Today, Noel reports he is then confirming that the Russians are back in control of Ulanok and Borky in here. So this map never showed that Ulanok came under Russian control, but we know from Syriac and his map that it did. Noel's done a great mapping, I should say, actually, of Kursk over the last month and a half, and that has then come back under Russian control as well, of course, back inside of Russia. So that is the maps updated. We just have a couple more things to chat about. So we need to look at the victory plan. We've spoken a lot about Zelensky's victory plan, especially over the past few weeks, because he's been presenting it in the US. Now, Andrew Yermak on TV has said that it will be presented to Ukrainians, but without some sensitive details to prevent the information from leaking to Russia. So you're not going to see the full thing. You're going to see some outline of it, but not pieces that could give Russia any, upper hand with this information. But again, the goal of the plan is to strengthen Ukraine's future negotiating position and push Russia to make just peace. Now, 4 to 5 weeks ago, we did see Zelensky saying that they could see a realistic end to the war this year. We are now it's October 1st in Australia. I don't know, we're 16, 17 hours in front of a lot of places like the US and 8 hours in front of Europe, but it's getting very close to the end of the year. And I do ask, what could be in this that realistically could force Russia to make a just peace and put Ukraine in a upper hand negotiating position when we're looking at areas still falling on the maps and the problems of which, yes, both sides are having problems with things, but I do believe the manpower issues and the industrial issues are more impacting Ukraine at this point in time than Russia. As we can see, Russia's making more and more ground. Nevsky, Vuhledar coming under control basically just today. He said on television, everything that becomes public is heard not only in our country but also by the enemy. That is why some detail of this plan are classified, but it is important to see the implementation of this plan on enemy territory. Zelensky was in the US last week. Reports emerged the White House was concerned the plan lacks a clear strategy to win against Russia. Again, even in my wildest dream at this point right now, except for NATO intervention, conventional intervention, troops on the ground, I don't know what could sit in this to have a win, at least in the timeframes of some have given, and force Russia to the negotiating table, force Russia to make peace. Again, we will wait and see. And people will even say, even if NATO were like, yep, we're going in to some degree, which is highly unlikely at this point in time, that Russia may still try and hold as much ground as they can. It might just, one guy's not going to walk across the border and know we're fucking off. As we've spoken about, the more blood, the longer you've been in a war, the more unlikely commanders, politicians are to make any sorts of agreements or give up anything that has been fought for with blood, sweat, tears, and time as well. That gets more and more unlikely the longer the war goes on. This is why war gets more and more savage the longer it goes. World War I then, of course, went into chemical warfare. And the longer this war goes on, taking historical references, the more and more savage it is likely to then become, as no one is going to want to budge on anything. Now, just last piece here, an interesting bit of footage. We know that Russia has been really hammered down the Black Sea with Ukrainian then drone boats, typically referred to as BECs or BECs. But this is something very interesting that I've just seen today. These FPV drones that are then flying out of a Russian helicopter here. Now, I believe this is in training, but I'm not 100% sure. But they're flying them out of here. You'd hate to be full throttle up and just go straight into the bloody rotors. But using these as a way to then target these drone boats out in the water. Now, if you remember, the naval officer that I spoke to was saying the best way to counter these is not off the ship. If you're in range of the ship on the guns and this and that, that thing is way too close. You need to hit these externally. The best would be a physical barrier, walls, or distance away. Next best is something off probably a helicopter. And interesting to see those drones being used there. But what we have seen is R-37 or R-73, whatever the Russian equivalent to a Sidewinder air-to-air missile, but being used in surface-to-air. We have seen those aboard those boats and with one off the rails. We believe that one of those aircraft may have actually been hit with one of those just due to the ranges. I can't remember if it was the Tu-22 or the A-50. Either way, it doesn't matter. We believe an aircraft may have been hit with one of those. It would be interesting to see if they can work in packets, fire off that heat-seeking, and that could maybe hit the helicopter that is trying to engage these. But we have seen a lot less attacks with those drone boats. That is twofold. It is that Russians have moved then a lot of the Black Sea Fleet away, but also there tended to be a higher efficiency of intercepting these as well. The last few attacks that we've seen hit some patrol boats, smaller ships and like tugboats, not these massive ships that we saw in the beginning. And it's twofold. Some have moved, but also hitting them has become better. This happens with all new weapons that enter a battlefield. Legends, have a fantastic day. I'll try and get as much news to you as I can. Thank you. Bye-bye.